we'll get into all kinds of stuff, but like for years, Kenny and I did the overnight Sports Center, but when it was in Bristol, Connecticut, before they built all the studios, which they're now closing. Great idea, guys. So before Sports Center was in Los Angeles, before there was Sports Center in the morning, the 2 a.m. Sports Center was the thing that ran all night long. And we had to be there until all the games were over. So the worst thing you ever wanted to hear was rain delay at Dodger Stadium, because then you're like, fuck, we're going to be here till 4 a.m. So you do the show from 2 to 3 when supposedly all the games are over. But because it re-airs literally from 3 a.m. until 1 o'clock in the afternoon the next day, it's on constantly. So it's a good thing because it's the maximum exposure you can get because it's on all the time. But everything had to be right. You know, you had to get everything right. You had to time it, all this kind of stuff. And whenever you'd make a mistake, they would yell in your ear, fix. So we're going to have to fix that for the re-airs. We have to redo it. So we're going to have to be here longer. Well, you are just a walking non sequitur, for lack of a better term. Like, you are like free verse poetry in every aspect of your life. There's no iambic pentameter. There's no rhythm. It's just, this is where we're going. And I couldn't handle that. So I started laughing all the time. And the producers would get so angry at me because I couldn't get through a segment without cracking up. And I would keep us there, I'd say 30 minutes longer than we needed to be. And everyone hated me by the time the show was over. But it was your fucking fault, man.
Especially if you did like 4 days in a row or 5 days, like where you didn't get that middle day free. You're just hanging on by, it's like the scene in Jerry Maguire where Cuba Gooding says, you're hanging on by a thread, man.
Yeah.
And that was like every night. And it was fun to make other people. Linda Cohn was easy. I owned her. Just say 2 words and she's like falling apart. And we also, we were not using the technology they have now. Now, when you mess up a name or say 19 and it was 18 or the score was wrong, they'll take it in those 3 or 4 minute commercial breaks. Hey, just say the word. One word, we'll
18.
slip it in.
Yeah.
We were using old school, like 2-inch tape. There's a person in the back room, and we had to be. Here's the end point. Here, you have 9 seconds to say it right, and if you didn't, you did it over. Then, now the show might be repeating, and you might have to do it live inside the next show because that was the only way. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
it was something. And so when we did Main Street, the little comedy show with Aubrey Plaza and Alison Becker and John Glazer, Ben Schwartz, all those guys, the Van Pelt episode was the first one, and it was probably the funniest one. It was called Fixes.
Was hilarious. Yeah.
It's on the internet. Google Main Street Fixes, and it's the story of me completely wrecking a show because I can't say Rafa Nadal correctly, and Van Pelt hates me, and his marriage is breaking up, and all pretty true. Not Scott's marriage, that's fine. I mean, the intensity, the punch drunkenness, it was a thing. Then they moved us to the 6 o'clock.
Yeah, and then they thought, okay, we like the two of you together, but we can't have everybody there till 5 o'clock in the morning every night. So then they moved us to the 6 o'clock show, and that was better. Although the thing, what we used to do, first of all, it's so stupid, right? I mean, I think I don't know. I haven't been in the building except for a guest pass for a show I did last December in years. But we used to have a production meeting for our 6 o'clock Sports Center at 10 a.m. Like, that was the stupidest thing in the world. First of all, it's 8 hours before the show. And whatever we think about in the 10 o'clock meeting, a million things are going to change by the time we're on the air at 6. So why are we starting at 10? Like, it made no sense.
You're leading to just how boring it was, too. Like, I could write that show. You could as well, pretty quick, right? I mean, there was a serious story. We took it seriously, and we did the right journalism. But most of it was the Cubs are playing the Reds. One of them's won 12 in a row. Let's go to the highlight or whatever, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And the 6 o'clock show sucked in that sense because you only had, like, day baseball maybe a few times. There wasn't much activity. You're mostly doing looking ahead and looking
first
behind.
round PGA Tour event,
Yeah. Seniors, these are seniors, but they're active seniors. Here's Thursday play, that kind of thing. So, and Chris McKendry, it was kind of an evolving thing. There was also a time where it was you two at the front desk, and I was the side guy doing a silly story and joining you guys for top plays or whatever. And we would go to the 10 o'clock meeting, not make a lot of remarks that really had anything to do to help the show. And then we'd go play 9 holes with Chris McHenry at this little Pine Valley or whatever it's called.
Yeah, not the Pine Valley, but the Pine Valley Golf Course in Bristol, Connecticut. A very different experience.
Yeah. So, you'd go in and you'd bang out a couple lead-ins to like a feature story. Good, those are out of the way, and I'll come back and do the rest of the show. We play 9 holes, have some lunch. Now it's 2 o'clock, and we're still bored because now we're done writing at 3 o'clock, and we got 3 hours to, Google the internet if we even knew what that was. But remember when we made up we said, let's juice the show up. Let's have sort of a bonus thing that could be different than what we've been doing. And we kept on battling back and forth. What are we going to call it? And one of us just, what if we call it Things That Happened?
Yeah, I said things that happened.
Things that occurred.
Stuff that occurred, yeah.
and
I don't think we have... Yeah.
We never ran it because it was going to be sort of a parody of sports television, but, still get the info out, but do it kind of silly. The day they were finally going to let us do it, like 11 things happened. 2 notable people died. 3 coaches were fired.
Traded.
Probably an earthquake somewhere, and it never happened. It was a little bit like when I did the takeoff on the ESPYs with Epstein, Mike Epstein, Epi, and his nickname was Epi. So inside joke, he would be the host of the ESPYs, and it got killed by Norby for not being reverential enough about the ESPYs, because at the time the ESPYs, they were kind of corny. They were like, whoever showed up would win it. If Griffey
would win an
Griffey
award,
wins, he showed.
Yeah.
They kind of like figured out who was in the house, and then ESPYs became a pretty cool thing, and it is what it is now. But we did a takeoff on the ESPYs that no one thought was a good idea, and it got killed.
Yeah. Well, along those lines, you got to tell the story of the time that the ESPYs were in Radio City early on, and you did the soccer celebration across the stage, and they almost lost their minds. They almost lost their minds how angry they were at you.
Well, there's way more to the story than me being an idiot, which I was in a commercial, the This Is SportsCenter commercials, and remember how some of like the Dutch players after a goal, they'd slide and end up on their elbow, like it was a thing. And so I was in a commercial with Alexi Lalas, and we did that thing, and it was on the air all the time. So I feel like I have a captive. They're going to get that joke. What happened going in was it was Dan Patrick and me and the guys from Sports Night, right? The show, the Aaron Sorkin show.
ABC, yeah.
And the premise was going to be that they're on stage stealing our material, and me and Dan are mad, so we're going to shoot them. And they literally brought fake guns and a little dot, little red dot, and it was going to you'd see it on their body. We were going to pre-tape this, run it back on the live show, right? And I'm like, I don't think that's good. I don't think we should be seen even pretending. Yeah. It's just not right. Pretending to do a violent thing. There's people that could have died the night, but it just wasn't the right thing. And so I objected, and there was this big, pre-show, like, come on, man, there's a funny skit. They're Hollywood writers. I said, I don't want to do it. I don't think it's the right thing to do. And Dan agreed. So then they came up with, what about this? We'll have other guys hold the guns, and you guys are near them. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Why am I even complicit in this? They're stealing Dan's jokes anyway. This whole thing doesn't make sense to me. So we tape it. They run it. Now it's time to go out, and it was time for revenge. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to completely fuck around then, because you guys ran that stupid thing. So I slid across the stage. I gave a shout-out, a clenched fist shout-out to my brothers from ESPN News. I will bring you back shrimp from the post-party. Burt Reynolds told me it was great. So I'll take that all the way.
Yeah, I take his opinion over the people that objected, who will remain nameless.
Well, I told him, I said, well, what if how come only half the audience got it? He says, fuck the audience. You do what's in your heart.
Hey, if that comes from Burt Reynolds, man, you got to fucking take it. Okay? I mean, that's the way to go.
Afterward, I do remember somebody saying, hey, that little stupid stunt of yours cost us 2 minutes. And I said, well, if you would have killed your terrible skit, you'd be back on time. But anyway, so I wasn't invited back to that.
Well, I was invited to the ESPYs one time, okay? And it was when they were out in L.A., and they, you go out there because there's a huge golf tournament for him, which is really what I want to do. I wanted to go play in the golf tournament. So I went out to check in, and you get your stuff and you get it, you get to, here's your this for that, here's this for that, here's the time for this, here's your goodie bag. We have a gifting suite downstairs. And by the way, here are your 2 tickets to the ESPYs. I'm like, I'm not going to that. You can give those to somebody else. And they did not take kindly to the fact that I did not want to have any part of participating in the actual event. I was just there for the golf. I was never invited back after that either. So I think we pissed off the same people.